Okay, so we're going to look at circles, ellipses, and potentially move on to cylinders today. Now, circles and ellipses, really, really simple. If you were to look, I've got this candle as an example. If you look at this from top down, it looks like a perfect circle. As soon as you start to turn it, you can see that it becomes an elliptical shape. So any real life object, depending on the perspective that you look at it from, is going to have ellipses in different places. If you think about on a piece of paper, looking at a circle top down, will look something like this. As soon as you start to turn it like I did, that circle's going to get squished slightly. Squished a little bit more, squished a little bit more, a little bit more, until it's kind of like a flat disc, basically. And you could say that this is in a perfect box, proportionate. This then has a box that's been obviously squished, so this length is shorter than this length, and then as you get lower down, it gets obviously wider and more squished. So we could call this long and short, because when we get down here, this axis is much longer than this axis. Okay, and that's basically what is happening with ellipses. So a great thing to do just to practice ellipses is to, on your piece of paper, when you're warming up, as we've shown before, just work on muscle memory and how you sketch ellipses. Okay, so you could do some circles, and then within those circles you could add some ellipses. Lots of different ways that you can basically test your skills. How do we do this in 2-point perspective is probably what you're thinking. So if we get our horizon line, so let's have a horizon line coming across here with a vanishing point. We'll bring these vanishing points back onto the page just for this example. So we've got vanishing point 1, vanishing point 2 on our horizon line. We're going to start with a cube. So if I bring in my cube here, so my first line, I'm going to go up to that vanishing point from the top and the bottom. Same on the opposite side, from the top and the bottom. So we've gone off to our vanishing points. We're then going to make sure that this face is pretty proportionate, so we want it to be pretty square. Same on this face as well. So in terms of that length and that length, they're roughly similar. Okay, I know they're not perfect, but it will make our practice of circles much easier, because we want this square to basically be on here, but it's been tilted, it's been manipulated. So if we think about it, what we've got now is we can, on this face, we can cut this in half and cut this in half. And that's technically that part of our piece. But it's actually not, because what we've really got going on is a short axis at a slightly different angle. So the short axis is going to be going through this vanishing point and through this center point here. So through here and out the other side, like that. What we then need is, for this short and long axis, to have a perpendicular. So with a line, if you've got a line here like this, that is a perpendicular angle. Okay, we need a perpendicular angle on this short axis. Okay, so this one sticking out is the short axis, and through here, say I was to draw from the center point a perpendicular angle, we know it's roughly, it's not quite right, roughly like that. Is that perpendicular? Not perfect. That's my fault. It will do the job. Okay, hope you understand. So short axis, long axis. Okay, this one is our long axis going through here, the short axis. Now, if we were to draw on here a little cross, 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 and cross, and then we had some other lines going through, you can see how it intersects those lines. And as we draw our ellipse, we could have, if I draw, let's go on this one here, long axis, and then we've got cross on there like so. These parts intersect at an equal distance. It's basically what is happening on here. We need to touch this part, this part, this part, and this part, but we also, on a long axis, need to touch parts. So from here, we could say there, we can go up to the short axis where it meets, go across where it meets, go down where it meets, and that sets out how our ellipse is going to look. what I've done is I've gone back on this vanishing point line for this dot, same from here on this vanishing point line for this dot, and then obviously the verticals work vertically. And from there you can really slowly draw your ellipse. It's a little bit squished, but you can see how you get an elliptical shape. Obviously mine's slightly off over here, so it doesn't look great. I've done that very slowly, I've done it very, I suppose, technically accurately, but because my lines aren't perfect, it doesn't look perfect. What you would actually be doing is, say on this face, you would be working out where your lines are. So we've got our vanishing point going over there. Our short axis is going to be coming this way. So through this point to that vanishing point, just use a ruler to kind of show you. So all the way through there to that vanishing point, we've got this like so. So there's our short axis. And then perpendicular to there, through the center point, if I use that 190, there is our long axis, okay? There's our perpendicular angle. And from that point, we want to touch this point, touch this point, touch this point, and this point. And then we also want to make sure we're going through these points here. Okay, so maybe for our ellipse, it's going to be something like this, all the way along to there, all the way up to here. And then try and be as smooth as you can with these lines. We've got a really tight radius at the end. These are nice smooth radii down to here. And it turns around, okay? And there is your ellipse on that side. Now again, because I've taken my time and I've done it so carefully, it doesn't look very good. If you were to do it on this top face, you can kind of visualize roughly where things need to be, and you would add an ellipse like so, and then you have your ellipse on your top face. Now, hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you understand the short axis being here and your long axis being here, and this needs to be perpendicular. Have a little go, play with that. What you can do is you can just draw yourself some very quick perspective cubes. So I'm not thinking about these vanishing points here, I'm just doing some random vanishing points. And then on your faces, you know that your long axis is roughly in this direction, short axis is roughly in that direction, and you can start adding ellipses on. Same with here, long axis roughly, short axis roughly. Start adding your ellipses. Okay, do as many of those as you can, fill a page, just chuck the cube anywhere, doesn't really matter, it can be really, really fast and messy. It's just trying to get you to understand long axis, short axis is roughly on that position. Have a little go. The more of these you do, the better you're going to get at it. All right. So that is circles turned into ellipses. What you could then do is start building cylinders from there. So you can extend your perspective out from this one in this direction. Add another face on here. And then you could add your cylinder on, an ellipse on there, join these two up like so, and we have got the start of a cylinder, as you can see. So this becomes dark, this bit becomes dark. We wouldn't be able to see that back face, so if I draw it with a fine liner quickly, you can start to see our cylinders. Like that. Okay. Again, perspective-wise, always thinking about our verticals here, here and here. Oh, that's really wonky. Always thinking about our lines going off. So these green lines going off to that vanishing point in the distance, quite aggressive. And our blue line going off to the vanishing point to the left. Okay, as long as you've got those nailed down, you'll be in a pretty good position. Hopefully that helps. Practice this, test yourself with small cubes, and you'll get really, really good at ellipses and therefore cylinders in perspective.